So I'm going to be a little bit more calm and collected during this. My first take on the review of Assassin's Creed Valhalla was over 50 minutes long. I'm going to try to shorten that down by collecting my thoughts and less repetition of myself. With that being said, we're going to have spoilers from here. I'm going to warn you now. However, I will leave a timestamp into like this part right here where you will be able to see where we're gonna have a non-spoiler review. I like to do that at the end now, where I have just a brief recap. I won't give any spoilers. I'll just state basics of what was good and what was bad, and then I'll give my final overall review. So with that, let us begin. So again, spoiler warning from here on out. A brief recap of the story. Essentially, play as a character named Eivor, who is a male or female. You get to choose. And you're in Norway, and then King Harald Finehair comes in, and which I think it is. They don't explicitly state it is, but he is the first king of Norway historically, and conquers everything. You eventually leave Norway with your adopted brother Sigurd, and you go to England and establish a settlement named Ravensthorpe. From there on, you spend the whole game building up alliances throughout all of England. Eventually, you meet another. There is an assassin that gets introduced to you by Sigurd named Basim, and from there on, you go out building these alliances, like I said. And then, eventually, Sigurd gets kidnapped by a woman named Folke, and from there on out, you're trying to find him. Eventually, you do, and then also there's a side arc going on that has to deal with you being an Isu. You're the reincarnation of Odin, and Sigurd is the reincarnation of Tyr, and then Basim is the reincarnation of Loki. So from there on out, you're realizing this, and then Sigurd realizes he is descended from a god. And then you kind of finish things up in Norway, or not Norway, finish things up in England, then you go to Norway to find Valhalla, and I use air quotes there. You reach it, you realize it's a simulation, and then you escape. Then you find out that Basim, who already knew he was an Isu, was seeking revenge on you because you're the reincarnation of Odin, and because you tried to kill his son, Fenrir. Fenrir causes Ragnarok, if you didn't know. Well, Basim tries to seek revenge. You and Sigurd overpower him and trap him in Valhalla, and then modern-day Layla comes in and frees him, and then is trapped in Valhalla herself for this simulation where she has to try to figure out how to solve the end-of-the-world crisis. You then play as Basim instead of Layla, playing inside of Eivor, which we'll get to later. But that is the story, essentially. That is the entire story of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The main one, at least. That is none of the side quests involved there. But that's the story. So as always, we do with the pros and cons, and we're going to start with the pros, and then I have a couple neutral topics we'll talk about, and then cons. So for starters, Eivor is a solid character. It's by far one of the more interesting assassins we've gotten in a while, and I think that's what the new trilogy, I'm going to call this, the Layla trilogy, has kind of done. Bayek, Alexios or Cassandra, and Eivor are all three great characters to play as. I think they've done very well in the new series to do that, and I think these are some of the best assassins or hidden ones we've seen since Ezio. Now, transitioning into that, we have good voice acting. The actors who play Halfdan, who play Soma, who play Ivar and Uba, Alfred, Eivor, all really good. I have nothing to complain about them, especially with Eivor. The actor who plays him is Magnus Brun, who ended up voicing, I believe his name's Canute in The Last Kingdom, and The Last Kingdom is a wonderful show on Netflix if you've not watched it. It was co-made by BBC and Netflix for a while, and then eventually Netflix just picked it up. Great show, also takes place in the Viking era, same thing with the Great Heathen Army, a little bit after actually. Great show. Highly recommend it. Magnus Brun is phenomenal here in this video game as well. So, transitioning, the side quests are kind of half and half, but the good ones at least, all the ones in Northumbria, the ones in Shropshire, Lincolnshire, Suttonhamshire, the Essexshire, something like that, and then Jorvik, are all fantastic storylines. And I have no complaints about them. So I'm not going to go too much into detail, but those are some of the most in-depth storylines you get, and you get characters like Hemingr Jarl, Derolaf, Vili, you get Hunwald, you get some really phenomenal characters in the north, and I think that is by far the strongest part of the game, is playing in the north. I highly liked that, and I don't have any complaints about that. And then that also kind of transitions to the fact that a lot of the side characters are pretty good, like Soma, Uba, Ivar, Halfdan. The ones who have pretty solid voice acting. Hunwald's an interesting character. You learn to like him a lot. And overall, just a very good story, like good characters that go along with these side quests. Vili is a great character. Hemmingergarl is a great character. Dorolaf is a really interesting character. And then you deal with a lot of interesting enemies up there as well. Like you deal with the Picts, you deal with the Britons. Honestly, just one of the more better areas to be. I can't state that enough. On top of that, we also get Guthrum, which I really enjoyed because the TV show Vikings completely neglected him. And Guthrum is really important in Viking sagas and history because he is part of the Great Heathen Army, comes in a little bit later than Uba and Ivar and Halfdan, but he ends up leading up quite a massive army and nearly takes down Wessex, but he's defeated in an ambush, and he ends up becoming king of East Anglia for about 10 years under the name Athelstan. It's really interesting. He converts to Christianity. His character's really good here, too. I really liked his character here. So, going and starting in Norway is awesome, because you kind of get this premise of why people are leaving Norway. There was a lot of reasons why people left Norway in the Viking Age. For starters, there was overpopulation, there wasn't enough space, not enough land, and then you get these people who are trying to make a name for themselves, and this is kind of where you get with Eivor and Sigurd. I really like that. It really shows what the Viking Age kind of was and why people left. Great place to start. One of the best features in this game is raiding. I love raiding monasteries. That was probably one of the funnest parts of the game. I was a little sad when I raided the last one, because it makes you really appreciate and really get to feel how Vikings were and how they raided monasteries and how easy they were to raid. Most were unprotected, most didn't have walls, and they were just full of treasure. So it was really cool going in there and being able to finally raid these monasteries and kind of see what things were about. That said, some of the more historical places you get to go to is fantastic. Hadrian's Wall was where I kind of first realized the depth of this game. It's fantastic just scaling it and running around on it. I ended up running the whole wall because it's just massive in scale, and it's just a very impressive feat, and I really liked that they added it in the game. Like Stonehenge is in here, and then there is a small Easter egg that I plan on releasing in a video later on that deals with Ragnar's grave, and that is awesome. Just a level of detail. It's just outside of Jorvik, and he is killed by the King of Northumbria, King Aela, and so it's really cool that it's just outside of the Jorvik there, and honestly, they didn't have to add something like that, but phenomenal that they did. That said, some of the better enemies you fight have to do in the north. You fight the Britons, and you fight the Picts, which is interesting, and this is actually a small comment that I wanted to make, because I loved that they added this, and that's one of the Picts basically stating, like, we outlived the Romans, we can outlive you, this is our land kind of thing. That comment is fantastic, because the Anglo-Saxons kind of treat, and eventually the Vikings and the Norse do too, treat the Romans as giants, as these people massive people that came before. And the Picts know because they fought against the Romans, so they kind of know who the Romans are. Same with the Britons. So the fact that they commented on the Romans and that they kind of outlasted them, I liked that little attention to detail there. That was great. Can't emphasize that enough. Going to Asgard and Jotunheim is probably one of the best things you could do. It is the first time I got to Asgard, I was amazed by how beautiful and how amazing it was. And then just the first time you get to do the leap of faith off of your little palace, off Odin's palace, it's not little at all, but it is just extraordinary, and it's a great feeling you get. It is awesome. Same with Jotunheim. Jotunheim's pretty much the polar opposite of Asgard. It's this cold wilderness that you kind of have to. It's brutal, you know. It is. It's not the typical like paradise that you'd expect it to be, but Jotunheim is a great place to be as well. It's this kind of opposite place. It's awesome. The skill tree is okay. I think it's kind of limiting in some ways. It's kind of basic too. There is a few issues I have with the skill tree, but overall it's just okay. It's not great. It's nothing that's crazy in depth at all. So one of the things I really loved was the settlement building. Settlement building was a lot of fun. I really appreciate that about most games I play. If I get to build a settlement, create a settlement, I'm a fan of city building games. So the fact that you get to build up your settlement and actually see the results of it, great little thing. You actually get to see people who live there interact and do things, which is also cool. I really liked that. The Hampton Shire Arc is fantastic too. It's one of the few areas where, honestly, it's just beautiful. You get to actually sack Wessex and sack Winchester, which doesn't really happen historically. They get close, they don't actually do it. But the fact that you get to kind of play this part in ravaging Wessex is interesting. You know, it's this alternate kind of history part, and honestly, you get to see Alfred's defeat in this, and Alfred doesn't lose historically. He actually defeats and outlasts the Vikings, but it's really interesting. You get to kind of play this alternate style history, and I really liked it, and it's just a culmination of leading Guthrum's armies in this battle too, which, great arc in itself. You see a lot of characters die that is pretty shocking. I won't name those there, but it's really interesting in itself, that arc. Alfred's ending is probably one of the best ones, and it's what I consider the true ending. After you complete the Hampton Shire Arc, which isn't part of the main storyline, you go to get a call from Alfred to come meet with him. And he's just living in this rural settlement, and you find out some things that you never wanted to be the leader of the Order of the Ancients. You wanted to be just a normal person. And now that you've taken them all out, he's just kind of like, thanks, I'm going to live my life now. You can leave. And Eivor does, and it's probably one of the more interesting endings you get with someone, that it isn't like they're truly evil. There's not like they're there to be evil. They actually have some depth to them, and they really did that with Alfred, and it's one of the things I can truly say that was really well done, because this is the first time we get a character that's like not truly just all about being a Templar or the Order of Ancients. It's fantastic that you finally don't get those characters that are like, no, we're better, we need to be an Isu, we need to find out what the Ancients were. Just love that you finally get that normalcy, or that like human aspect of things. Overall, that is, like I said, that is what I consider the true ending, and that was a really good ending. There's a somber moment that I'll play for you here, that, as soon as I'm done talking, that is, for this part, that is just really, there's something about it. They play in music, and it just gives an aura and a feeling that it resonates in me, and that I was like, wow, I just completed this game, and this is what I'm going to consider the true ending, because there's something like somber about it. It's just, it gives off an emotion that I can't really explain, and I only got it when I played it. So I'm going to play that for you now, and I'll shut up for it, and then you guys can make up your own judgments by it.
It is a good life. Välkommen after, styrman. Sails! Catch the wind! Strike up a tune. Sail out!
So honestly, that is all the probes I kind of had. So the neutral aspects of this game have to do more with the collectibles. There are a bit more of a variety of collectibles that are fun. You get to fight the remnants of Ragnar's men. They kind of seek Valhalla, and you get to kind of take them there. The alpha hunts were kind of interesting to an extent, that you get to see them in your Great Hall and everything, so they're trophies at least. So that was interesting too. Honestly though, that's about it for the neutral factors, and I'm not gonna lie to you, there are a lot of problems with this game. So we'll just kind of hop into that now. So I think the problem that most people had with this game are the bugs, and it's what I'm gonna start out with first, because it's the biggest problem in this game. For starters, the one that really got me the most, your quiver just randomly disappears, and when it does that, it reverts it down to the base arrow capacity, which is 12. I had it maxed out at 30, so I had 12 arrows again, and it was brutal, because going from 30 to 12 is a big difference, especially when you're used to 30, because it nearly gets cut in 2/3, right? That's a big difference. The only way I was able to fix it is when I went to Vinland, and even when I did that, it put it back to 18, I believe, which is about halfway up of where you upgrade it to. That in itself is also a problem, because you can't, there's a glitch in this game that makes it so you can't find fabric after you've fully upgraded it, or right now just can't find fabric at all once you get to a certain level. And when it happened to me like that, I ended up not being able to upgrade it further and complete the upgrade again. So I was just stuck at 18 because there's a glitch where you can't find any more fabric. And I don't know if it was really a glitch. When I looked it up online, that's what's kind of been spread around. It's people saying that, yeah, there's a bug going around where you can't find it. So this is all from peers. I don't know if it's a confirmed bug with at least the fabric glitch. The quiver glitch is definitely one because I experienced it myself. That being said, there's also a glitch that's kind of small. When you call your horse, you can get on your horse and then it just rides in a direction without you even controlling it, and you cannot control your horse. There is a easy way to fix it. You simply just get off your horse, run a certain distance, call your horse back, and then you can get on and go. There were only a couple times where I had to reload my save to get my horse to work again. That said, though, that is very inconvenient when you have to stop yourself, reload a save, and play. Again, that it takes yourself out of the story, takes yourself out of the game, and overall takes time, and we'll get into the loading screens after this. So that horse glitch was annoying. Another glitch that goes on here is that with Bjorn comes in with a storyline that's, I believe, a DLC you get for just buying the game. And you go through this whole storyline. There's a glitch that eventually he becomes part of your crew, right? He does part of the game, where you cannot put him in your crew on your ship. You get this weird screen like you're recruiting a Yams Viking, and you try to like recruit him, I use air quotes there, and then it won't let you do that. So you can't ever put him on your ship. So, and then if you try to put him on your ship through the crew menu, it will just change it already without you even changing it. So it'll just automatically change it from that. Another glitch that I noticed playing this, at least for the big ones, going into I got the platinum trophy in this game, which took me 129.5 hours. And there's a glitch where a trophy you have to get 19 fish, catch all 19 fish with the fishing lure. That's easy for the river fish. The fish on the coastal lines have an issue where they just despawn. And I mean that, they just despawn. I've had fish where they're circling my lure and they're about to bite, and then they just poof, gone. Don't exist anymore. The way I found to counteract this is to spawn in an inland port, where like on a river port, and then just go to the ocean or go to the seas. And then most of the time they were there, they usually despawned probably about 50% of the time. In that case, and then you just have to go around. It took me an hour and a half to catch about 9 fish because I had at least more than half of them when I was getting this trophy. Still a pain in the ass because you shouldn't have to reload and change your spawn point just to get these fish to get there. Because if you spawn on the coastline with just to catch these fish, they're there for probably about half a second and then they just disappear. Kind of annoying that they made that a trophy and then had this glitch exist. So yeah, pretty big there. So the graphics in this game are decent. They look exactly like Odyssey, which I'm assuming has more to do with the fact that I'm on the PS4, so PS5 probably looks much better. There are texture errors that I get. One really massive one that nearly almost screwed me. Some of the textures didn't load in. I'll put the clip on so you can kind of watch it as I'm doing this here. And I reloaded the save twice in this case because I thought that would work. Did not. I ended up trying to fast travel twice. I tried to fast travel twice out of it, and it put me in the same spot. I couldn't get out of it, and that's why when I tried to reload the save, it didn't work because I was reloading into a part that already had these where I was already stuck in the rock, so it just put me back in the rock. So I ended up. I was lucky. I had my save. I had a save that was pretty close to that. I had to redo probably about 45 minutes, but it took me out of that, and then, I was about to be really disappointed if I had to redo more than like an hour's worth. That was infuriating that I had to do that. But the fact is, it's not that bad. I've had worse with other friends here, because there is a bug in this game, at least on the Xbox One, I don't know if it still exists, where if your game crashes, it deletes your save. And for my buddy, it deleted over 8 hours worth of his content, and he never picked up the game again because deleting 8 hours worth of your progress is a kick to the face, right in the teeth. And that is a bad glitch. That's even a thing in the game. That being said, I had quite a few crashes in the game. At one point, it was getting as bad as 3 times a day. And that's brutal because I'm just trying to play the game for you guys, and I'm trying to play the game for me because I was really interested in this game. And it's crashing 3 times a day. That's a pain. That was a minimum at one point, especially when I first started. It got better as I went along. Eventually went to be once a day. I went probably about a week span without it crashing, which I was very impressed. And then I would actually commented on that to some people in my Discord. And then, of course, as soon as I commented on it, it started crashing again. It was doing once a day again, and it was brutal. When it's crashing consistently, that's a problem, right? You shouldn't be dealing with that kind of stuff. It's not good. And that being said, there's going back to the frame rates. There's some frame rate lag when it comes to it. Again, I think that has to do more with the fact that this is a next gen game on previous gen consoles. I can't really say that's too bad there. We'll leave that though. That's it for the biggest stuff in terms of the bugs and glitches. There are still quite a few things I think are wrong with this game. With that, there are some of the characters in this game that are completely dry and boring. Fulke is the first among this that comes to mind. She is the most one-dimensional villain I've ever seen in a AAA video game, where she is there purely to be evil. She has no other reason to be there other than she is evil. And I think it infuriates me more is that when you're killing her and you go into this like little vision that you go with Odin, she's laughing as you're beating her up. And it's like, who are you, Ramsay Bolton? The only issue is Ramsay Bolton was a much better villain than she ever could or will be. And it was really just annoying that she's doing this, because it's like, shut up, you're just annoying. Because she's not imposing by any means at all, at least physically or even like psychologically. She's not that imposing to me, so I'm not really afraid of her. But she comes off, she tries to portray herself as this big badass who at the end fight she grabs like a cross out of the ground, and it's like, who are you, Jesus now? Like, no. And she could barely swing this fucking thing, so that's even more annoying. And it's super easy to kill her, so her death really isn't even that like fulfilling, because it's really easy to defeat her. And overall was very lackluster. I did not like that, especially for how much they made her the quote-unquote villain here. Was not a fan of it. Other characters that kind of come off as dry. A lot of the people who follow Alfred are very just cut and paste. It feels like a lot of the Order of Ancients also kind of cut and paste. At least for those in Mercia and those in Kent. And East Anglia is okay. East Anglia, I think, is one of those neutral things I should have mentioned earlier. East Anglia is not bad. Ruid is kind of one-dimensional, though. There are not a lot of depth when it comes to these characters. They're there simply to be the villains, and you don't really understand what they think is good or bad. I don't know. It wasn't that good, in my opinion. I think they could have definitely done better when it comes to this, especially since most of the Order of Ancients aren't even your enemies for the storyline. They're the enemies during the side quests. The only main Order of Ancients baddie is, like, I'm pretty sure it's Fulke, and that's about it. Like, and that's it. The rest you kind of do through side quests, or when you're searching for Sigurd. There's only a few, I think, when you're searching for Sigurd. I think the Winchester Arc is really the only one you actually find Order of Ancients. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Other than that, there's we're out of the characters now. There's a lot of cut and paste here, it feels like. When it comes to the storyline, it's very generic. It felt like they wanted to recreate Assassin's Creed 4 and just yeah. But then you have that arc with when you fight the Britons, and then you kill the King of the Britons' brother, and then you kind of go to war, and then you establish a treaty, and then during this peacetime you kill the king still, and then his wife never seeks revenge. What? I felt like that was definitely left untouched there, and that really could have been something, but it never came out of anything. This is a very cut and paste story. That being said, this looks a lot and feels a lot like Assassin's Creed 4. Like, they try to make this the glory of the Viking Age, and kind of like the end of the Viking Age as well. Kind of like what they did with the Pirate Age in Assassin's Creed 4. It was like all the pirate legends are dying except for Edward. Here, all the Viking legends are dying except for Eivor. However, we're at the peak of the Viking Age. We still have the exploits of Rollo. We still have King Harold Finehair, Eric Bloodaxe. You have all these Viking legends and kind of not great people, because Eric Bloodaxe is not a very good person, that come and go and aren't talked about. We have Harold Bluetooth that comes in too that we don't talk about. And they try to treat this as it's the end of the Viking Age, when it's really not. This is actually just getting started, you know? But that being said, there's a lot of fluff in this game. It felt there was a lot of storylines that could have been cut from this, or just overall better. The Gloucester arc comes to mind, where you literally are there just to get your blacksmith a wife. Then there's the Essex arc, where you're literally playing matchmaker between a lord and his childhood sweetheart. That's it. That's the whole arc. It felt like, and both of these arcs take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, and it's like, why are these here? It's like, I don't want to play matchmaker between a king and a person. Like, do it yourself. It's so random, and it's one of those things you have to do, or you're not going to get the trophy, the platinum trophy. It felt like it was there to add fluff to the game. Like I said, the game, I put 129 hours into this game. Story-wise, there's probably anywhere from 30 to 40 hours worth of content, depending on how long it takes you to do certain things. So I would say probably 30 to 40 hours story-wise. The rest just kind of fluffed out. And a lot of collectibles in this game, which we'll get to soon. Other than that, though, we can transition into the repetitive combat. The combat was fun at first. I think it gets really annoying by the time you get to the final, like the midway through the game, and you're trying to do a battle, and then every other kill is one of those, like, not cinematic kills, but like one of those, like, I'm trying to find the right word. It's like scripted words, or yeah, scripted is the right word. Scripted kills where you cut their legs off, or you cut their head off, cut their arm off. It's like, okay, I don't need to see this for the 80th time right now in this single battle. I just want to finish killing all these people, right? And it does it like every other kill, it feels like. It does it against every elite warrior, ones that have the yellow over their name, whether it's a shield bearer or if it's a kinsman or a pikeman. Every single one of those will have a scripted kill. And it's like, I don't need to see this for the 150,000th time. Yeah, 150,000th time. I don't need to see that. I can get past it. I don't need it. Other than that, there's a lot of pacing issues in this game. Sometimes it feels like this game's going 100 miles an hour, and then other times it feels like we're idling across the storyline. A big example would be the prologue. When you're in Norway, it feels like the story is moving 1,000 miles a minute, because the main enemy you're fighting, Kyotiv, you kill him within like the 3rd mission of the game, and he's put up to be this kind of really bad guy because he kills your family. So it's like, I thought he was going to be a lot harder to fight and wasn't going to be till towards the end of the game where you catch up with him. Instead, he's just a very small part of a big game, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it was very unsatisfying killing him because it happened so quickly. I was like, oh, okay, now what? Like, I don't know what to do. And then you get to England and things slow down, and it gets pretty good in England for a while, but then I would say probably when it gets to the Gloucester and Essex arcs, even the Kent arc, it feels like it is dragging on, and it's just taking forever to go by. Then it gets decent. It's back and forth, right? Inconsistencies with the cold water. In Norway, it's really cool that if you go in the water, you'll start to freeze to death. When you're in Northumbria and you go in the water, it doesn't do that, despite being colder conditions with the snow and ice. For some reason, if you go in the water in Northumbria, you don't start to freeze to death, which I thought is stupid, because if you're going to have that be in Norway, why is it not like that in Northumbria? I know it has to do geographically, where, Norway is colder than Northumbria, likely at times. I don't know the weather consistencies over there by heart, but I think that if they're going to make it do that, you should make it go across the board. You should have it in both areas, not just the one. The climbing mechanics in the game kind of suck. I can't tell you how many times I had to climb something, get all the way there, and then instead of jumping to the next platform, he jumps to the ground. and I have to redo it because there's only one way up the area, and you got to redo it like 2-3 times because he just keeps jumping off. Other times where he'll just decide to jump randomly in other areas, like I'm trying to jump forward and he'll jump to the left, and it's like, okay, thanks, I definitely needed that. Or he'll do random leaps of faith, and it's like, no, I just wanted to go up this platform, and now I have to do the whole thing over again. Other things, when you're trying to climb things and he refuses to climb upward, you have to go slightly to the left on the controller, and he'll climb it, or you have to go to the left and then climb up, or right and climb up, right? It's things like that that are really annoying. So why can't you just go up when I hit up on the analog stick? Why do I have to, like, just to go up something that's like not exactly parallel or straight with, not exactly straight with me, I have to go to the left 1 centimeter just to go up it. It's like, seriously, you can't just counter that. That's annoying. Small things like that just get on my nerves. Collectibles were a massive issue for me. There are 788 collectibles in this game. I'll let that sink in. 788 collectibles. That is where a majority of my time went into this game. Collecting them took anywhere from 4 to 10 hours, depending on how big the area is and depending on how many collectibles there are in each area. Jotunheim alone has 41. Asgard has 40. I think London is one of the smaller ones with like 23, but I didn't count out the London ones, to be fair. I did not count those ones out, so don't use me as a source on that one. I did count the Jotunheim and Asgard ones. That's a pain in the ass. That being said, though, there's a lot of collectibles, and I mean a lot. And it gets really annoying and really repetitive, and it leads me to the next point. It leads to random puzzles. There's a chest in Jorvik so you can get, right? You can't get the chest in Jorvik unless you collect 3 keys that are in Jorvikshire, right? That are unmarked at 3 separate locations in the cursed areas. So there's 3 cursed areas in Jorvikshire. There's a hidden key you have to find in each one of those spots to unlock this chest in Jorvik that I think gives you a nickel. Like a piece of nickel? Like, what? That's all it gives you. It's not like it's a special armor piece or unique weapon. Nope, it's just a piece of, like, carbon or nickel or tungsten. It's really random, and it's like, why? That's so unnecessary, but who am I to say what's what? We already kind of talked about predictable villains. We'll go a little bit into another one. Now, we'll talk about, I believe it's Shropshire, where it's Lincolnshire, where you have to pick the new leader of Lincoln, and you have to either pick Hunwald, you have to pick the Thane, or you have to pick the priest, right? And you could go with Hunwald or the Thane, both are fine. But the priest is the obvious villain in this case, and he does end up being an Order of Ancients. But literally the moment I met him, I was like, he's an Order of Ancient. There's no way he's not. And then he is, and it's like, shocker! Like, I'm so surprised. Or like 15 hours into the game, I see Alfred, and I'm like, Alfred's the leader of the Order of the Ancients. And then, lo and behold, I get to the end of the game, it's like, shocker! He's the Order of the Ancients leader. Who else could it have been? Right? It's one of those things where it's so predictable that it's a little frustrating how easy it was to predict who was what. Even Folke, the moment I met her, she was super sketchy, and I was like, she's definitely an Order of Ancient. Then she kidnapped Sigurd. Oh my goodness, who didn't see that coming? Like, it's one of those things that's like, come on, make it a little bit harder to detect who's who. You know, it bothers me like that. That being said, the voice acting of some characters is kind of rough. Folke is the first one that comes to mind. I'm going to criticize her again, because her voice acting is so bland, so just dry, and not a fan of it. Sigurd's is okay. It's not the best. It does seem a little forced at times, but I think that also kind of has to do with just how this game comes off at times. I don't think I could say there's too many bad voice actors. I would say the worst voice actor in this game is by far Folke, and that's just that cut and dry. That's center. That's plain and center what the worst one is. Another thing I find frustrating is no enemies end up getting frightened by you or like scared of you. What I mean by that is I could kill 15 people, right? And then the 16th soldier is like, I'm gonna kick your ass. And it's like, what? I just chopped your buddy's legs off, and you think you're gonna kick my ass? Like, I would be running for my life. And it's things like that that get really annoying. That it's like, how are you thinking you're gonna kick my ass when I just killed 15 of your buddies? It's one of those things that it's small, it's annoying, but it's whatever at the same time. Orlog is something that I got frustrated with. It was really good at first, and then once you get towards the end, because you have to beat all the Orlog players to get the trophy. Wow, does it feel like the computer likes to favor the computer? Because I can't tell you how many times the computer will consistently get like 5 like token stealers that are all giving them tokens at the same time, and I can't get any of them. It is a luck-based game, but man, does it seem to favor the computer, and it is annoying at some point. Another thing with the collectibles, the stone cairns, having to stack those things, fucking suck. I had to look up specific walkthroughs on how to beat some of those because they got so unreasonably difficult. And I was reading the comments on some of those videos, and some people were saying it took them over 2 hours. It should not take you 2 hours to do one collectible. I'm sorry. There's 788 collectibles. It should not take you 2 hours to do one of them. And I have a huge issue with that. No. And it did take me 45 minutes with some of them to do one collectible. It's why this game takes so long at times, and it makes me think that it's purely there for fluff. The hood concept is super stupid, in my opinion. I'm sorry. So the hood is meant to make you go incognito in this game, in most Assassin's Creed games. If you're in a village that people are suspicious of Scandinavians, apparently putting a hood up makes it so you're automatically not suspicious at all. And you're armored out beyond all hell. You're carrying massive weapons, and no one bats an eye because you have a hood up. But the moment you take it off, people freak out. And let me tell you, it's the same 4 lines of dialogue that go into every single village in England that these characters have. So when people panic, it's the same 4 lines of dialogue that they will scream at you. And my god, is it annoying. One of those things that's just like, how is a hood just the only thing keeping you from people freaking out? I'm sorry. No. The modern day storyline is kind of crap. And by that, I mean it is crap. Like Odyssey, they kind of skipped or didn't touch it too much, which was cool. However, you end up playing as Basim at the end of it, which feels very dirty because he's a villain in this game. And he's playing as Basim and then going to play as Eivor just feels very dirty because you spent the whole game kind of like skeptical about him, and then he ends up being a villain, and then now you're playing as someone who tried to kill Eivor is now playing Eivor. It just feels dirty. I don't like that. I don't like that's the route they took. Not a fan of it. I don't like that you can't scrap or store gear. You could do that in Odyssey, but you couldn't do it in Valhalla. Because I'm someone who likes a clean inventory, and the fact that you can't do that bothers me. Harold Finehair, or Harold in this game, comes into the game to get you out of Norway, and then just never comes back. Never plays a part in this role ever again. He doesn't force you out of Norway by any means. But it's why Sigurd and Eivor leave. And the fact that he leaves, right? The fact that you leave and then he just never plays a part in the story ever again is really just unfulfilling. It's like, why? Why is this character part of something if he's not going to play any other role in the game? That's what it feels like. And I'm sorry, it just feels very bland. Because I don't know, I can't help but just feel a little annoyed by that, because it's just he plays no other role other than to get you out of Norway, and I feel like he plays a big part in the Viking Age, but what do I know? Now Basim, I have a problem with Basim because Basim is so easy to predict. I think one of the more annoying parts, I saw a video by GameRanks. I really like GameRanks' videos, but they posted a video about shocking things in 2020 games, and they talked about you kind of going to Jotunheim and Asgard and being an Isu was shocking. You look identical to Odin. It's one of the first things I picked up in this game, is that, oh wow, I look a lot like Odin. And then you're Odin. It's like, oh, shocker, I look identical to him. And then Tyr looks identical to Sigurd, and then Basim looks identical to Loki. It makes zero sense that this was supposed to be a shocking moment. They were talking more about the Asgard part. Going to Asgard was pretty shocking, right? Which that part alone is pretty cool. I did like that. But going past that, though, Basim is one of the most predictable villains in the game. The moment I played through the Asgard arc, which was probably about halfway through my gameplay of it, right, of the story, and I was like, well, Loki is Basim, and they look identical. And then it's like, oh, it's like, you did that to him. It's like, no shit, he's gonna betray you because you killed his son in a previous life, right? It's one of those things where it's super predictable, and it goes back to the predictable villains thing. It's super easy to guess that he's gonna be a bad guy because he looks identical to Loki, and it's like they don't even try to change it up. You look identical to those characters, but again, I don't like how predictable it is, and he does seem kind of one-dimensional because Basim is holding on to this grudge forever, and I think at first he thought Sigurd was Odin, right? And then he wasn't, and then I think he figures out it's you. But that being said, though, it's like, you had this whole life outside of being an Isu. Why not just live that life and enjoy yourself? No, he has to sit there and be pissy that Odin tried to kill Fenrir. It's like, I don't know. It just felt very weird. I didn't like that little aspect of the game. So the last two things I'm going to talk about. Number one, I had skills disappear on me. I got to a rank of 400, and then they added 3 skills. One of them being that when you assassinate someone, you can kind of drag their body automatically if you wanted to by holding onto a button. That was cool. I didn't look at the other two too much. I liked that one a lot more. But then they just disappeared on me, and then they never came back. I don't know what happened to them. That was annoying. Really annoying, because it's like, what am I supposed to do now? I lose 3 skills that I was getting used to? Cool. And then they never came back. Another thing with the event, they had that, I think it was the Youth Festival or something like that. I can't really remember. It was supposed to be a 19-day event that only lasted about 5 days for me. Because you got these tokens, right? And those tokens you could earn in 3 ways. Or 4 ways. Doing missions for your people, doing an arrow competition, and then doing a fight competition, and then doing a drinking competition. Drinking got you like 10 credits. The archer one got you, I think, anywhere from 30 or 40, and then the arrow or the fight one got you 70, right? Not bad until you realize, like, it just felt. It was so repetitive. They took forever to do. Doing the fight one took at least a half hour because you have to fight like 12 people. And then you're doing it drunk too. The archer one took like 2 minutes, but it was very repetitive, and it was kind of like, it's like, I don't want to do this 150 times. And then the drinking contest one, you earned so little it wasn't even worth it, right? So I wasn't doing them all the time. I wasn't doing a crap ton of them to like grind them out and get all the unique armor pieces and the unique weapons you can get. I was just doing it more or less to get them over time. So I got all the armor pieces within the first 5 days, and it was like, alright, I'll play a little bit of the story and then go back to it. After like 2 days, it was just gone. It was just flat out gone. They removed it. And I was like, cool, this was supposed to be a 19-day event that's no longer here. Great. Right? I wasn't a fan of that, and the fact that they just made it disappear was annoying, and I couldn't get my unique weaponry. Now, I have the unique armor, I don't have the weapons, so that is that. But that is it. Honestly, it's rough. So, we did cut this down about by 10 minutes or so, me redoing this, which is nice. I'm going to do the quick recap now for those who didn't want the spoiler-filled ending, or the spoiler-filled review. I know that's kind of hard, this is a review. But basically, good things were characters, voice acting, some side quests. About half the side quests were good. Some of the historical monuments you could go to, the raiding was fun. Some of the enemies were good, like the Picts and the Britons were really fun to play against. Going to some mythological regions was awesome. The skill tree was okay, the settlement building was fun, and basically, the true ending, which I consider the true ending, is good. There really isn't a true ending in this game, kinda, but I think it's probably the better ending, because the story ending isn't that good. The bad thing, you have some characters that aren't that good, obviously. Some one-dimensional villains, and by some, I mean most of the villains are one-dimensional. A lot of bugs and glitches in the game, and a lot of texture errors, a lot of fluff in the game. It just feels like there's a lot of padded time here. There's a copy and paste story. It feels a lot like Assassin's Creed 4, like it's been done before. Some terrible pacing, repetitive combat, some inconsistencies with small things in the game, collectibles, random unneeded puzzles were there. There's a lot of small things in the game that I'm not going to dive too much into. Feel free to watch the review if you want to go into those small things a bit more. The constant crashing is pretty brutal, and I mean brutal. The modern day isn't that good. You can't store scrap gear, which is kind of stupid. You have skills disappear, and you have events randomly go away before their time limit runs out on them. Overall, those are the biggest cons of the game. The bugs kind of make up for most of those. That if you want to go into it, like I said, feel free to watch the review. That said, that is the quick review. How would I rate this game? Right? How? It is difficult to rate this game. It really is. Honestly, the fairest review I could give of this game is 5.5 out of 10. This is a very average game. There's a lot. Before I finished the game, I predicted the story pretty well, and I was like, if this is heading where I think it's going to head, this is going to be a terrible game. And it did kind of head that direction. But not terrible game, but terrible story. And then the true ending does make up for it. It does. It really does to some extent. That made this game a lot better. That being said, I have to justify this being a 5.5 out of 10. And I think I rated The Last of Us higher, The Last of Us 2 higher than that. But the only reason I could say The Last of Us 2 was higher than that, A, it's a much shorter game. B, about half of the game is pretty fun with Ellie. Right? It's different. I put 129.5 hours into this game, and to be honest, there's just a lot of issues with it. I put so much time into it. I feel like I have that ability to think, yeah, that's fair. I can make that judgment. But that said, I think that's the best I could give it. I can't justify giving this game a 6. I can't justify going lower because I wouldn't play a game for 129 hours if it was lower than a 4, right? I put so much time into this game. There's no way I could justify putting that much time into a game I didn't like. So I would say 5.5 out of 10 is perfect. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. I try to do fair reviews. I try to do as unbiased as possible when it comes to this stuff. There are some really good things about this game, and there are a lot of bad things about this game too. I said it how it is in my experience playing it. With that being said, though, I hope you all enjoyed. If you have anything you disagree or agree with, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I know this is kind of a longer video, but I mean, kind of it is. The first review I had, I think, clocked out at 56 minutes, so the fact that I'm at 47 makes me a little happy about that. But with that said, though, I'll let you guys go. Hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the next review. Peace. If you enjoyed, please like this video because it really lets me know you're enjoying this content. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. The links are right here for you to click on, and the Discord chat link is right here as well. And overall, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.